Hey there and welcome to this Resolume Avenue tutorial. In this video I'm going to talk you through how to set up a minimalistic VJ set in Resolume Avenue. I recently got offered a small gig at a corporate party. I figured this would be the perfect opportunity to show you how you can prepare a small show from start to finish. So let's take this from the top, starting with the gig. When doing a show, it is important to understand that you are a cog in the machine. The VJ is there to enhance the experience, not to be the experience. This all starts with understanding what the client wants. In my case, this was a company party in the Netherlands. This means drinks, chats, music, and maybe a small amount of awkward dancing. Keep in mind that this might vary greatly depending on the place and culture. This is the point where you start thinking about what footage to bring. Obviously, you're not going to use political images, turbo strobes, glitches, lasers, and bodily mutilation during such an event. To get a vibe for the visuals, I started out by checking the DJ they hired for the party. From what I can Google, I see a very vintage vibe. Lucky for me, the DJ had a Spotify playlist that he sends to his clients to give them an idea of what they're getting into. Now that I've heard the music and understand the vibe, I can adjust my visuals accordingly. So let's get started on those. To get started on the visuals, I need to decide on a visual direction. I want to match my visuals to the style of the DJ. I envision warm tones, collaged images, CRT televisions, and dreamy textures. I started out by having a look at the Resolume footage store. With my budget, I can afford about 2 footage packs. My eye fell on the work of Lior Sadeh and Lilian Doring. Both creators have a nice vintage flair on their work and do wonders with digital collaging. I got the original time capsule pack in 720p because it is calm and has a very warm look to it. I also got the psychedelic travels pack, which has a very strong collage style. One thing I noted that some clips in these packs are very bright. We will fix this later when we start building our composition, but this is something that a beginning VJ might not take into consideration, hence the mention here. I loaded up both packs into Avenue to filter through the clips to see what I can use. First, I will review the time capsule pack. Everything is looking great, but there are 5 clips in this pack depicting warfare in one way or another. I removed these as I don't think they fit the set. There are also 3 clips with creepy kids. Though I think these clips are dope as hell, they won't fit the set either. I ended up with 18 usable clips from the time capsule pack. Next, I reviewed the psychedelic travel clips. All of the footage looks usable, but some are really bright, so I might cut them. Clips that contain a ton of white can be fine on LED walls, but I find they tend to break the immersion when projected. You run the risk of getting a PowerPoint presentation vibe. Now you might think that is not nearly enough, but you are surprised how much you can mix and match and remix clips during the show. This is the art of VJing after all. However, I do want more content, specifically vintage dancing footage. The best place to get this is the Internet Archive. Here I look for so-called soundies. These are the precursors of modern video clips from the 40s, and they are full of dancing and singing. I'm using Resolume Alley to remove the audio, trim the clips, scale the clips, and convert them to DXV. The DXV conversion allows for super fast playback, allowing me to remix and play with the footage without any hiccups. Check out our tutorial on codecs if you want to learn more about the DXV format. With my content selected, I can start working on the show. Here we are in Resolume Avenue, ready to get the party started. I start out by setting the composition settings. This means setting the resolution and giving the composition a name. Afterwards, I save the composition. Next, I want to set the general interface. I will start from the default layout and remove all features that I don't need for this show. This gives me a minimal interface and less tabs to deal with. I find that screen real estate is premium when working on a laptop. Now it is time to get our footage in. I am doing this through the Files panel, skipping the files that I believe don't fit the show. Our composition is at 1080p resolution. However, some of our footage is 720p, so we need to do a resize on all of our clips. To do this, I select all the clips, right-click and hit Resize Fill. This action resizes all the clips to the composition size. I also noticed that some clips have audio tracks. This is probably a little error that slipped in while the clips were rendered. However, this is an easy fix. Select all the clips, right-click and select Strip Audio. This action removes all audio from the clips. Before I get the rest of the clips in, I want to think about how I will play them. Because the clips are all screen filling, I want to add a strong emphasis on blending rather than what I call clip bashing. After some experimenting, I have come to this layout. I will have 2 layers of clips and I will have 1 layer of masks. To make this work, I need MIDI control over the opacity of the top layer. I also want MIDI control over the blend mode. All this talk about MIDI makes for a good time to introduce my main choice of weapon for this show, the DJ Tech Tools MIDI Fighter. I will mimic the layout of the controller on each deck. This means each deck will have 3 masks and 8 clips. 1 mask clip is kept empty, which gives me a button to map layer eject to. Now that I have a clear plan, I can set this up. I will start by adding a 4th layer for blend modes. I'll get back to this one in a bit. Next, I rename every layer according to function. I apply a color to each of my layers to mirror the controller I am using. I will add a checkerboard source as a placeholder for the masking. Next, we enable masking by setting the mask mode to 1 layer below. I use the checkerboard as a quick test to see if the masking works the way I want it to. Time to introduce the MIDI controller by enabling it in the preferences. I use the MIDI monitor to ensure everything is working as expected. Next, I create a new shortcut preset and give it a proper name. Now I can MIDI map the clips through the MIDI shortcut mode. Besides the clips, I will map the eject button on the masking layer as well. This can be used to stop any masks playing. I will also map the next and previous deck buttons to the side buttons of my controller. After that is done, hit escape to exit the mapping mode. Now we can do a little testing with the MIDI controller. This all works nicely. We can't properly blend clips yet, but we'll get to that in a bit. First, I want to explain the 4th layer and set it up. The 4th layer will be a reference layer for myself. As I said before, I want to add MIDI control over the blend modes. But I would have to memorize the controller, which I am terrible at, so I create a reference layer. Note that this step is fully optional. It is just a workflow thing that I personally enjoy and wanted to share with you guys. Note that the reference layer is bypassed, because I never want to display what is on this layer. Now I will create text blocks for the 4 clips on this layer, changing the text of the blocks to the names of the blend modes that they represent. After I'm done, I update the thumbnails of the clips. Now I can see what each clip represents, hence why I'm calling this a reference layer. Next, I mark the clips on the layer as persistent. This means that they exist on each deck at the same place. Check out our tutorial on persistent clips if you want to learn more. Now, to put it all together, I'm going back into the MIDI shortcut modes. First, I'm going to map the top row keys on my controller to the clips on the reference layer. Following that, I am mapping the same buttons to different blend modes. Note that in order to map multiple MIDI controls to the same interface element, you need to duplicate the shortcut like I'm doing here. By hitting the top row buttons, I can now switch blend modes. Instead of having to focus my eye on the small tab over here, I can use the reference clips instead. However, triggering the reference clips by mouse won't change the blend mode. In the end, this is just a fancy way of creating a visual aid for myself, but just mapping the blend modes would work fine on its own. But I like it this way. Now it is time to get into blending the layers. For this, I'll introduce my second MIDI controller, the FaderFox UC4. This controller is incredibly overkill for this show, but I like the compact design of it, and it fits on my backpack. For now, I'm just going to map the main fader of the controller to the opacity of the top layer. Great! Now that I have control over the opacity, I want to make my first real deck. I'll start out by selecting 8 clips. Next, I would like to have some masks that are a bit more fancier than the checkerboard. I will use Avenue's built-in sources to get these. My first mask I will make from a gradient source. By using a palette, I can double up the gradient. I use a slide effect to get some motion going. This gives a real nice double exposure kind of vibe when blended. The second mask is a solid white, to which I apply the searchlight effect. This makes for a very simple but effective mask. The third mask is again a solid white, but this time I am using the stripper effect to create lines of varying thickness. Because all these 3 masks have soft edges, they make for a very smooth blending experience. That almost wraps it up for the basic layout of our composition. I went ahead and repeated these steps for a couple of more decks, using content from the Time Capsule and Psychedelic Travel Packs, as well as the soundies I got from the Internet Archive. To improve the controller to screen relation even further, I am inserting a blank clip over here and matching the color to the controller. This is however not mapped to the controller, but it is persistent and therefore consistent along all decks. The next step is to apply effects to the entire composition. First, I will add effects that enhance the entire image, but I don't control directly. After that, I will add creative effects as well as brightness control. I start with applying a lot to the entire composition. This will help to tie the soundies and the packs together, as well as warming up the image. I am using the Amateur LUT that comes shipped with Resolume Avenue. Next, I will get rid of the projector on screen vibe by applying a vignette effect. This will double as a sort of vintage TV effect, which is a nice to have. Lastly, I will add a static before the vignette and after the LUT. I will set the opacity to about 5% and set the blend mode of the effect to screen. It will be nearly impossible to see for you due to YouTube compression, but this adds a bit of film grain to the overall look. You could alternatively use film grain clips, which are commercially available on many stock footage websites. This kind of noise and grain content works great with either the screen, burn or the multiply blend modes. Next, I will add a bright contrast effect, so I can tone down the brightness if needed. I will control this and all effects that follow using the dashboard. Let's make the dashboard visible through the view panel like so. In turn, I will map my MIDI controller to the dashboard. This prevents me from remapping the controller if I ever decide to swap effects. This also allows me to close all the effect tabs and just have the dashboard open instead. Take note in how I'm setting the range to be from -100 to 0. This is because I never want to enhance the brightness, just reduce it in case the projector is too bright. I know you guys all love effects, and so do I. Therefore, I know that I will use up all 8 dashboard parameters. So I will map them now to the 8 dials on the top row of my controller. Next, I add a hue rotate effect, which allows me to play with the colors a bit. A mirror effect is added, and on this mirror effect, I decide to map both the X and Y parameters, allowing a lot of on-the-fly psychedelic effects without going full kaleidoscope. Here I am adding the ripples effect to the composition. I animate the face and map the overall amplitude to the dashboard. I follow up the ripples effect with a shift RGB effect. Here I am adding a video wall effect. I set the zoom to 1 and add dashboard control over the amount of screens. I'll limit the amount of screens by setting a range. I'm rounding up my effects chain with the trails effect. I like having a delay style effect at the end of my chain, like trails. That allows me to slow down everything visually without touching the speed controls of clips directly. Notice how none of these effects do anything flashy. This is very deliberate since I am on a slow, subtle mixing game here and not prepping your average techno party. If I was though, I would use effects like strobe, shift glitch and distortion. Let me know in the comments if you want to see me prep a techno set. To clean it up, I am recoloring some of the effects to distinguish between what is on the dashboard and what isn't. This is also where I rename some of the dashboard parameters. The final step of set building is setting transition times for each layer. I go for a short, half-second transition for the clips and a longer 2-second transition for the masks. Again, focusing on smooth blending rather than jump cuts. With everything set up and mapped, I can hopefully get a lot of mileage out of just 8 clips. Let's put on a tune and have a little tryout, shall we? I need some more practice, but that really worked out well. A big shout out to my friends over at the Broken Brass Ensemble for letting us use their music for this tutorial. A link to their music can be found in the video description. And this will wrap up the preparation section of this tutorial. I'm going to get some more practice and get ready for the show. I will see you there. I arrived at the venue at a time requested by the organizer. I went ahead to check out the stage, meet the engineers and had a chat with the DJ about her decor. I set up shop next to the stage with the lighting and sound engineers. Here I am using the test card to check if the output is working and to gauge the brightness of the projector. Another important step is to turn off your Wi-Fi. Nothing more annoying than updates or pop-ups during a live show. Now that I'm all set up, I'm ready for the DJ to kick off the party. Here are some shots I made during the show. I really liked how the masking looked on the big screen, so I used it a lot. Overall, I went for a style where I would smoothly transition and fade and mask from clip to clip. In the end, everybody was having a good time, including the VJ. The visuals combined with the decor the DJ brought with her helped to make a large stage feel very small and more intimate. Whenever you are doing something creative, it is good practice to reflect on what you have done to learn and internalize what worked and what didn't. For me, I can say that the soft mask really did wonders here. In the future, I will make some wire patches for an all-in-one masking solution, but that is a tutorial for another day. On the other side, I did not like most of the effects I added to the set. Having mirror and screen effects on knobs felt really messy on a big screen. These should have been toggles in hindsight. The shift RGB effect got really old really fast, and it would have been nice if it was linked to an audio input to get some FFT action on. I did not expect to get so much mileage out of the trail and ripple effects, but they came in handy really nicely. They looked a bit too much on the composition monitor, but on the big screen it really worked. A key takeaway for me is that using the LUT effect to tie everything together was really clutch. I'm definitely remembering this one. I also think it would have been nice to use some of the leftover sliders on my MIDI controller to control transition time. I use static values throughout the set, but I think this would have been a nice toy to play with too. Rounding up, I am very pleased with how everything went. I've done a fun show and have improved my workflow along the way. I hope you have enjoyed this video. Drop any questions you have in the comment section below, and I will see you in the next one.